You ever just scrolling, maybe through social media, and you get that little pang, that feeling like everyone else just seems to have everything figured out, the perfect job, the perfect family, the perfect life.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm.
That pressure is everywhere, isn't it? Like we're supposed to be flawless.
Yeah, that little voice inside that kind of whispers, still not quite good enough, are you? Well, if you feel that, you are definitely not alone.
It's almost become the background noise of modern life.
Yeah.
This constant need to present this really polished version of ourselves.
Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into today in this deep dive. We're exploring Brené Brown's ideas from the Gifts of Imperfection.
Such a great book.
Right. So think of this as our mission, maybe,
Yeah.
to figure out how we can let go of who we think we're supposed to be
Yeah.
and actually embrace who we, really are.
In Brené Brown's work, it's grounded in research,
Mm-hmm.
looking at people who are really living and loving with their whole hearts. It's fascinating stuff.
She found these contrasting lists, didn't she? Things that help people live that way and things that got in the way.
Exactly. On the one hand, you had the do list, things like worthiness, being authentic, love, belonging, even joy, all the good stuff.
The stuff we all want deep down.
Right. But then there was the don't list, and that included perfectionism, trying to numb out feelings, judgment, scarcity. That feeling of never enough.
Wow. So it's this constant tug of war, basically, between who we're told to be and maybe who we genuinely are.
That's the core of it.
Yeah.
And her research really points to embracing our messy, imperfect selves as the way to actually get to those things on the do list.
So just to set the tone here, this isn't about finding some, magic bullet or a checklist.
No, definitely not.
Think of this more like a chat, maybe with a friend who really understands this struggle. Because let's be honest, we all wrestle with these things.
Absolutely. It's a shared human experience. And having the research helps give us a framework. So where should we start? Authenticity.
Yeah, let's start there. She calls it the audacity of authenticity. Audacity. That's a strong word. Why audacious?
Well, because being truly, genuinely ourselves can feel risky, vulnerable. We have these things Brown calls shame triggers.
Shame triggers, like little alarm bells.
Kind of. They go off when we worry about being seen as, say, too self-focused or maybe self-indulgent just for being who we are. We worry about the judgment.
Oh, I know those internal voices. The gremlins, she calls them sometimes. The ones that whisper, okay, maybe I think I'm enough, but what if nobody else does? Or what if people actually prefer the fake perfect me?
Exactly. That fear that our imperfections, if we show them, might lead to rejection. It's a deep fear.
So being authentic isn't always the safe or easy choice then.
Not at all. It often means stepping out of our comfort zone, challenging those inner critics,
And is that where perfectionism comes in? Like we build this perfect facade to protect ourselves.
That's precisely it. Brown defines perfectionism not as healthy striving or wanting to do well.
Right. Not just being ambitious.
No. It's the belief, often unconscious, that if we can just be perfect, look perfect, act perfect, then we can somehow avoid feeling blame, judgment, and that really painful feeling of shame.
She calls it a 20-ton shield, right?
Yeah. Imagine carrying that weight around all the time. It's utterly exhausting.
So how do we know the difference between that heavy shield and just, wanting to improve or do good work?
The key difference is the focus. Healthy striving is internal. It's about you. How can I improve? How can I grow? It's self-focused in a positive way.
Okay.
Perfectionism, though, is intensely other-focused. It's all about what will they think? How am I being perceived?
That constant external validation seeking.
Yes. Think about how much energy goes into managing impressions.
Right.
Brown suggests that if we could just reclaim some of that energy for ourselves, for our own values, it would be huge.
It's like learning guitar because you love music versus learning it because you want everyone to think you're cool.
Exactly that. And she links perfectionism often to how we were praised as kids. Maybe only for achievements, for getting things right, for pleasing others.
So you learn, I am what I accomplish.
Pretty much. My worth depends on how well I perform. And that creates this relentless pressure.
A feeling of never quite being enough, no matter what.
And the fallout can be serious. Brown connects perfectionism to things like depression, anxiety, addiction, and this term she uses, life paralysis.
Life paralysis, wow. That really lands.
Yeah, it's all those opportunities we miss, the things we don't even try, because we're so afraid of not doing them perfectly, being seen as imperfect.
Okay, so if perfectionism is this heavy shield, how do we start to, take it off. It sounds daunting.
The pathway out, according to Brown, is through self-compassion.
Being kind to ourselves.
Essentially, yes. Extending the same kindness, the same understanding to ourselves that we'd readily offer to a friend who's struggling or made a mistake, especially when we fall short of those impossible standards we set.
She talks about her own experience with this, right? Something about body image.
Yes, it's a really powerful example. She contrasts that harsh, shaming inner voice, the, ooh, I look awful, I should be ashamed kind of talk,
Oh, yeah. Many of us know that voice.
with a self-compassionate one, something more like, okay, I want to be healthier, I want to feel better for me, my worth isn't tied to this number or this size. It's about accepting yourself now.
Not waiting until you achieve some future perfect state.
Exactly. Worthy right now. And this connects to Dr. Kristen Neff's work on self-compassion, too. Brown highlights mindfulness, not trying to ignore difficult feelings.
Because that usually doesn't work anyway.
Right. It often makes them stronger. But instead, noticing them without getting totally swept away or catastrophizing, creating a little bit of space.
So you can choose how to respond instead of just reacting?
Precisely. She gives that example of, I think it was misspelling someone's name in an important email.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Mortifying, right?
The perfectionist reaction is often panic, self-blame. I'm so unprofessional, they'll think I'm an idiot. Total spiral.
Been there.
But a self-compassionate response might be more like, oops, okay, made a mistake, I'll fix it. It happens to everyone. Acknowledging it without letting it define your whole worth.
That shift, just in the internal dialogue, feels like it could change everything.
It's incredibly powerful. And she points out, when we lack that self-compassion, we often become more judgmental of other people's flaws, too.
Because we're holding them to the same impossible standards we hold ourselves to.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
If you can't be kind to yourself, it's hard to be truly kind to others about their imperfections.
So, okay, authenticity, letting go of perfectionism, building self-compassion. What's the next step on this path?
The next crucial element is courage.
Courage. Okay, not necessarily like superhero courage.
No, not necessarily scaling buildings.
Yeah.
In this context, Brown talks about courage mostly as the willingness to let go of what other people think.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Huge. It's the courage to show up and be seen as you truly are, imperfections and all, even when it feels really vulnerable.
She tells that story about giving a parenting lecture, doesn't she?
Wow.
Where she got totally derailed trying to impress one critical person.
Yes, such a relatable story. She talks about how she started hustling for worthiness, trying to win over this one person who clearly wasn't going to be won over.
And trading her authenticity for approval.
Exactly. And the result was what she calls a shame storm. That awful, sinking feeling of inadequacy, of not being good enough.
She even mentions the physical side of it, right? Like dry mouth, heart pounding.
Absolutely. Our bodies tell us when we're in shame. Recognizing those signals is step one. And the key thing about courage, she emphasizes, is that it's not a personality trait. You're not just born courageous.
It's a practice.
It's a practice, like swimming. You learn courage by, well, couraging, by doing the brave things, even when they're small.
Small things. Like what?
She calls it ordinary courage. Things like asking for help when you're struggling, admitting you don't know something instead of pretending.
Say I don't know can feel surprisingly hard sometimes.
It really can. Or asking for what you need, like the example of the child asking to be picked up later from a sleepover because they weren't ready. That took courage.
Those little moments add up. And that story about the moms at the preschool music thing.
That was
Beautiful.
wasn't it? When the mom arrived late, clearly flustered, and the other moms shared their own moments of imperfection, offering support instead of judgment.
That's like collective courage, creating a space where it's okay not to be perfect.
Exactly. It shows how vulnerability can actually build connection and community, which leads us nicely into the idea of compassion for others.
Right. So not just self-compassion, but extending it outwards.
And Brown's definition here is important. Compassion isn't about fixing people or needing them to be strong all the time. It's about being present with them in their struggle, in their darkness.
Just showing up without judgment.
Without judgment. And without needing them to be this pillar of worthiness for you to care.
That not fixing part is tricky though, isn't it? Our instinct is often to jump in with solutions.
It really is. But sometimes just listening, just being there, is the most compassionate act. And crucially, Brown ties compassion to boundaries.
Boundaries? How so?
Well, compassion doesn't mean being a doormat or letting people walk all over you. It's possible and necessary to hold people accountable for their actions,
Okay.
but doing it without resorting to shame or blame. She gives that example of the project manager who just shamed his team when things went wrong instead of setting clear expectations and consequences.
Right, because shame just shuts people down. It doesn't actually help them improve.
Exactly, damages connection. And connection for Brown is feeling seen, heard, and valued. It's being able to give and receive support without judgment, finding strength in the relationship.
Like her calling her sister after that disastrous lecture. That was connection.
That was connection in action. It helped her move through the shame. And she also points out how this myth of self-sufficiency gets in the way.
This idea that we should be able to handle everything ourselves.
Yeah. We're often quick to offer help, but hesitant to ask for it. Recognizing that we all need support sometimes, and we all offer it at other times, that's key to building those real connections.
Okay, so we've got authenticity, ditching perfectionism, self-compassion, courage, compassion for others. What's the final big piece of this puzzle?
The final piece is learning to let go of shame, understanding it, and building resilience to it.
Shame. She defines that as different from guilt. Right.
Very different, and the distinction is crucial. Guilt is, I did something bad. Shame is, I am bad. Guilt focuses on behavior, which we can change. Shame attacks our very sense of self, our worthiness.
And she says it's universal.
Absolutely. Her Shame Resilience 101 is basically, 1, everyone has it. 2, everyone's afraid to talk about it. 3, the less we talk about it, the more power it has.
That third one,
Oh, wow.
keeping it secret gives it control.
It festers in silence. Guilt can actually motivate us to apologize, make amends, do better. Shame just tells us we're fundamentally flawed and unworthy of connection. It corrodes our belief that we can change.
That story she tells about getting a really hurtful email illustrates this, doesn't it? Her first reaction versus how she eventually handled it.
It really does. Her initial instinct was anger, defensiveness. But eventually she practiced shame resilience. And Brown outlines 4 elements for doing that.
Okay, what are they?
First, name it. Recognize you're feeling shame. Understand your physical triggers. Second, talk about it. Share your experience with someone you trust, someone who's earned the right to hear your story.
Crucial step, talking about it breaks the silence.
Huge. Third, own your story. Acknowledge what happened, your part in it, without judgment. And fourth, tell the story. Articulate the experience maybe just to yourself or that trusted person to gain perspective and lessen its hold.
Name it, talk about it, own your story, tell the story. That's a powerful framework.
It really is.
Yeah.
And she leaves us with some deep questions to ask ourselves, like, who do you become when shame takes over? How do you protect yourself? And maybe most importantly, who do you call?
Knowing who that person is, who you can be truly vulnerable with, that seems essential.
It's foundational for building that resilience.
So as we kind of wrap up this exploration of the gifts of imperfection, what's the main takeaway? What do you hope people listening really hold on to?
I think the core message is that embracing imperfection isn't, giving up or settling. It's actually about liberation. It's freeing ourselves to live more fully.
With more courage.
With more courage, definitely. More compassion for ourselves and others, and building deeper, more authentic connections because we're willing to be vulnerable.
It's a powerful reminder, isn't it, that you right now, just as you are worthy of love and belonging, imperfections and all.
Absolutely. And in a culture that constantly tells us to be more, do more, be perfect, choosing self-acceptance, choosing self-love, that can feel pretty radical.
Almost revolutionary.
It really can be.
Yeah.
And maybe the final thought to leave people with is this. Owning your story, the whole messy, complicated thing, it's actually far braver and ultimately less dangerous than spending your life running from it.
So maybe the invitation today is just to consider one small way you could lean into your imperfection, offer yourself a little bit of that compassion we talked about. It might just be the start of something really important.